The Oakley Podcast is taking a short break for the month of December, so we've decided to head back into our archives to bring you some content that we aired earlier this year. Be sure to tune in to early 2024 for all the content that we're currently working on right now. So for today's episode, let's go ahead and get into episode 142, How Should Owner-Operators Prepare for Retirement?
Hi, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. This is the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. And as always, we like to give you good information to our independent contractors and their families and whoever else is out there listening. We know we also get a lot of recruits that listen and watch the podcast, and we sure appreciate that. But we sure try to give you some good content every week. And this week, I have a financial expert with me, Matt Ruttenberg, and we're going to talk a little bit something different. I know, it seems like all the time on this podcast, we're talking trucking stuff, and a lot of times you don't think financial responsibilities, retirement is it comes up a lot on this podcast or in general when it seems like when I'm talking to truck drivers, but I think it's very important that you guys out there have a retirement plan. And a retirement plan that produces for you a good retirement plan, not just a backup plan, but something that you're gonna prosper with. And that's something I want to do and visit with Matt Ruttenberg, and we're going to talk about that kind of stuff, financial independence, what you can do as an independent contractor to help you with that. Whether you think you need a financial planner or not, is it too late to start? Those kind of things we're going to talk about a little bit with Matt here in just a minute. But first, let's do an Oakley update sponsored by Aero Truck Sales. Aero Truck Sales has been in business for over 60 years and a longtime partner of Oakley Trucking and the Oakley Podcast. Trey Visor and Keith Wilson do a great job at putting you in the right truck to fit your needs and our needs here at Oakley. They carry all makes and models to choose from with on-site financing through transport funding. So whether you are a seasoned owner-operator or a first-time buyer, be sure to contact Keith Wilson at Aero Truck Sales at 573-216-6047 and tell him you heard it on the Oakley Podcast. Okay, let's get right into this. Matt, I sure appreciate you joining me on today's episode. I know this is the first time we've met, so we'll get to know each other during this episode too, but I really appreciate you doing it and helping our independent contractors because by just looking at some of the stuff you've done, you seem to be involved in that retirement and financial planning and stuff like that, and especially any advice you can give to independent contractors is very beneficial. First, before we get started, can you give our listeners a little bit of background on you so they kind of know who's talking to them?
Sure, yeah. My company we're a third-party administrator, or we're an administrator for a retirement plan, so 401k plans, simple IRAs, anything that has to do with implementing a retirement, like a group plan for anyone who's got employees or independent contractors, building and designing 401k plans or other types of retirement plans. That's what we do. I've been in the financial industry for about, what year is it? Oh, geez, almost 20 years now. So I've seen every corner of the financial industry if it comes to investments and retirement planning, financial planning. I owned my own financial planning firm for several years, and I call myself more of a generalist in that. So having a good background on building a retirement or a financial plan, I guess, where you're touching every corner. So the insurance, the financial piece, the investments, estate planning. But I wanted to be more of a specialist maybe about 8 years ago. And I ended up merging that corner of my business in with Life Inc. Retirement Services, which is the company we're at now, and building a specialist community. So all we do is work with business owners, independent contractors, and so on and so forth. So I have quite a bit of experience, work with every type of business owner out there, whether it's truck drivers like independent contractors or companies with several hundred employees, whether you have an entity or not, as long as you have self-employed income, meaning you're filing a Schedule C or something, which we'll dig into here in a little bit, that is who we talk to. And those are the people we work with. And that's kind of our specialty.
Where are you from, Matt?
So I'm from Ohio originally, lived in Florida, North Carolina, currently in Hawaii at the moment, and not sure after this. So I'm a completely independent, location-independent individual at this point.
Nice. That's got to feel good.
Yeah.
So what do you got a family?
Yeah. Yep. Wife, two girls. We moved here about 9 months ago. That was part of selling my business too. I was kind of cornered into Southwest Florida for, 18 years or something like that. And didn't want to be in the bottom corner, so we decided to move up to North Carolina for a few years, and then now we cornered ourselves in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So that's kind of where we're at this moment, being very versatile at the moment. So
I'd say that's probably a pretty nice place to be cornered into.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. at the moment.
Well, so, financial independence is something that I think a lot of people strive for, but I also think there's a lot of people that they feel like they'll never get there, and it's hard for them to get out of that mentality. But I believe everybody has that opportunity. What's your definition of financial independence, and maybe what do you think they need to do to achieve that?
Yeah. Financial independence is actually, I don't want to call it a coined term at this point, but it is a massive global community, to be honest with you, financial independence. There's a large community that discusses, it's called the FIRE movement or FIRE community. It's financial independent, retire early. And the definition of financial independence, just by definition, is having enough assets to pay your bills without relying on somebody else to do that for you. So whether that's passive income through investments, whether that's real estate investing, whether a version of this is being self-employed, right? Independent contractor. You are in total control of your life in that situation. So the retire early part is more of a personal choice. If you want to retire or you like working, that's a totally different thing. But having enough assets, whether it's liquid or illiquid, or a business is an asset, right? So having those pay for your bills and your lifestyle to the degree that you want it to, that is considered financial independence.
What's some examples of those assets that would pay for your bills if you didn't want to work?
So let's say you're going liquid. Let's say you're stockpiling savings and you want to get to a point where the dividends or interest off of your investments like mutual funds and 401k plans, IRAs, there's a rule of thumb. It's the 4% rule. So inflation is a problem long term for sure, even short term. And a 4% basically, so if you have $1 million saved for retirement, for example, that would produce a $40,000 income. And that should last you for your lifetime because it allows for inflation, it allows for any fluctuation, lifestyle changes, things like that. So that's kind of a low end. Then you're stacking Social Security on top of that, any pensions, things like that you have, spouse's income, but that's off of the liquid assets, that's 4%. Something else is, real estate investing is a really big positive, if you will. So long-term rentals, long-term rentals are 1-year leases. Somebody else is paying your mortgage for you, paying down your mortgage. All of a sudden, after 20, 30 years, you have this paid off mortgage and you have X amount of dollars in equity. And the idea behind that is somebody else is literally paying for your retirement at that point. And then business owners know. So if you've created this business to where you're able to step aside and have others run the business and you're kind of just overseeing it from afar, an absentee owner, if you will, that is also another form of financial independence.
Right. Yeah, I think those are all good examples of where we want to be at some point. I hope everybody, aspires to do that at some point. How are we getting to that point to where I'm financially independent and I don't have to rely on anybody, to to make a living. And if I don't want to work, I don't have to work. That's
right.
I think where everybody wants to get to, where they can do the work they really want to. So here we got a one-man business. All of our independent contractors, they own their truck and they drive their truck. How do these guys go by saving for retirement? What is maybe some of the best avenues that they can help themselves being an independent contractor? What's some of the best avenues they can go about benefiting and saving up for retirement?
Sure. Yeah. Whether you're using an entity or not, right? That's a question we talked about prior to jumping on here is, let's say you're getting paid.
Entity, you mean incorporated,
LLC, filing as an S Corp, whatever you're doing,
okay,
whatever your accountant, the CPA has advised you to set up, so that means your checks would come in and be paid to your LLC, for example, versus yourself. But even if you don't have an LLC set up and the income is coming to you as an individual, you're still earning self-employed income, right? And anything that you're doing that is you're not a W-2 employee is considered self-employed income. So if you do not have an LLC or you're not filing as an S Corp, you are filing your taxes on a Schedule C, right? Independent contractor. That's by definition what that's for, self-employed income. If you are an LLC and maybe you're filing as an S corporation, then you are required to pay yourself a W-2 employee. So you have X amount of money coming into the business, and then you turn around, stroke yourself a check as an employee of your own company. You're giving yourself a W-2, and you have a set salary that you give yourself. That would be the other side of it. Both sides, you are considered self-employed, and it broadens your horizons to being able to open a self-employed retirement plan. And at that point, it really comes down to what do you want to do? How much do you want to save? What are you able to earmark towards the long-term future? And, we'll get into, what you can invest in and things like that. But starting at the very bottom, it's 2023. There's all new contribution limits that come out. There's all new tax credits that are coming out. You can start as just an individual IRA. That'll get you started if you want to. That's below $6,500. And you can go all the way up to, it's called a solo 401k. So a 401k, if any of you have worked at an organization where you were a W-2 employee, you were probably offered a 401k plan. And they may have done a match, they may not have. And in essence, since you are this independent contractor, you are a business owner, you are able to open up your own 401k plan, even though you don't have employees. You are your own employee. And they earmark it. It's called a solo 401k. It's a one-man shop. You could include a spouse on that. So if you have enough revenue coming into your business and you want to put even more towards retirement, you are allowed to put a spouse inside of a solo 401k plan.
What's that limited to, Matt, the solo 401k?
Good question. So in all self-employed retirement plans, I'm just going to start right there. There's two kinds of contributions. There's employee contribution. So you yourself as an employee of your own business, it will go up to $22,500. 100% of your income for 2023, $22,500. That's you as your own employee. Okay, that's going to come out of, if you are an filing as an S corp, it'll come out of your paycheck that you're paying yourself. If you are an independent contractor just filing a Schedule C, it can still come out of the corporate account. It's just earmarked as a employee contribution, okay? The second type is an employer contribution. So technically, this is like profit sharing. You're giving yourself profit sharing out of your own business, right? And this is calculated a few different ways. So the absolute maximum between these two is $66,000 per year.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah, and there's ways to even do more than that. But if you are an LLC, you're filing as an S corp, you give yourself a W-2 every year. It's 25% of what that number is. Whatever your W-2 is, it's 25%. You stack that right on top of the $22,500, and that's what you make. So keeping it simple, if it's $100,000 that you're earning, $25,000 on top of the 22, so that what is that? $47,500 is what you are maxed out at for that particular year.
Oakley Trucking is a 100% owner-operator company. We specialize in hopper bottom, end dump, and pneumatic trailers. We provide the trailer free of charge, and you provide the truck. We have a large customer base that reaches the whole United States as well as parts of Canada. Our owner-operators live anywhere from Texas to North Carolina to Pennsylvania to Wisconsin and everywhere in between, and we get them home weekends. We take it seriously when you join Oakley Trucking because we need you to be successful. Oakley offers great benefits and competitive mileage pay, so you know that when your wheels are turning, you're generating money no matter if you're loaded or empty. We understand that you want to make a good living and that you make our living. We only take on independent contractors, and to be honest with you, we are very particular on who we lease on. You must have a good driving record, good work history, and clean, dependable truck. So if you're interested in Oakley Trucking or just want some more information, you can go to oakleytrucking.com, listen to our weekly podcast, The Oakley Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Nice to put in your own 401k. Well, that's probably above and beyond what most anybody ever does or would do with that opportunity, but that's still a way to do that. And then in that, since it's your own solo 401k, I guess you get to pick what it goes into. You're the one making all the decisions.
Yeah, you're the boss. You're the one choosing who you work with. So investments are quite broad on what you can do with these types of investments. Whether it's a solo 401k, whether it's something else is called a SEP IRA, which a SEP IRA is in essence just the profit sharing portion, just the employer portion. So the 25% of whatever you're paying yourself, that is a SEP standalone by itself. So if $25,000 for that example is all you need, that might be the best way to do it. It's having a personal conversation with someone and asking the questions, which one is best. That's the best way to go. But the investments are broad, like I said. So you can go keep it simple, get into the mutual fund, get into index funds, stocks, bonds. We can even do cryptocurrency now if that's something you'd want to get back into. And then we have a fair amount of clients who put money there buying real estate inside of their 401k. You get a mortgage inside of your 401k. It's paid for by your 401k. All bills, all taxes, everything has to come through that funnel. But it's being housed and you get the tax benefits of the 401k to do that. So that's a question. Well, does that make sense? Maybe not. That's a individual conversation. But it's broad. You can do a lot, and that's the second part of the equation. It's step one is how much do you want to put away? Step two is how do you want to invest it?
So if I'm an independent contractor and, I'm making $250,000 a year gross, and I'm let's say 50 years old, and I have nothing for retirement, I guess I need to look at the solo 401k if I've got an extra $10,000. I mean, if I put in, I guess it's just a matter of calculating it, Matt, but I mean, if I'm 50 years old, I don't have any retirement. Is it too late for me to start? And how much do you think I need to put in retirement if I want to retire 20 years, 15 years?
So business owner, so what you have against you is time, right? The compound interest is what you're losing. So just as a food for thought on this, if you were to put $6,000 one time into an investment and let it compound at 10% per year for 55 years, that's $1.5 million off of that one-time $6,000 investment. So compound interest is massive. Now we have that against us. So now we're stockpiling and we're aggressively saving at this point once you're in your later years and past the middle age mark, I guess. And with the IRS code is built for business owners. It is absolutely beneficial. It's hard to get a mortgage sometimes because you have all these tax write-offs and they don't look at it that way. But if you can, so $250,000, if you're 50, you qualify for something called a catch-up from the IRS inside of these 401ks. So I mentioned 22,500 earlier, 22,500. Add another 6,500 on top of that is what you're allowed to as an employee of your own business. So you said 250,000. You are easily going to max out the solo 401k. So I said 66,000, right? Add that 6,500 to it. Now you're at $72,500. 250,000 will max that out. And there's even more you can do on top of that. We've heard of pensions, right? Back in the old days,
Right.
like Ford and GM had pensions, and they're not really existent anymore. But as a business owner, you can do that, and you don't have to worry about all your employees getting all this money. It's you and you alone. So think of an upside down 3-tiered cake, right? You have your bottom layer is now the smallest. That is your $22,500 if you're under 50 years old. Let's just keep it simple with that. That's the smallest portion. The middle portion now, in the middle, is the profit sharing, which gets you up to that $66,000 as the employer contribution. And then you have, it's called a defined benefit plan, even more than that. And a defined benefit plan is a pension. They're also called cash balance plans. So think of the term defined benefit. You're defining what's coming out on the back end, right? That is how it's calculated. It's not defined contribution, like you're defining the contribution in the 401k piece. The defined benefit is we're earmarking, and we have actuaries looking at how much are we going to get on the tail end. And those, if you're 65 years old, and you can put away more than $300,000 pre-tax per year combined with all those together. So you're not stuck to the 22.5, or you're not stuck to an IRA. There is so many beneficial accounts available for business owners, and a lot of them are just not talked about.
Yeah, I think the key is, of course, you got to be working and make that kind of money so you can put it away and be smart with it for sure. Mm-hmm. Do you see a lot of people, that have their own business like this? Is it better for them to get maybe a financial advisor to help them with some of this stuff?
Yeah, and it's a financial planner is someone who will help you organize. Let's call it a general practitioner type situation, right? You go to the doctor, they're looking at everything. They make sure it's all, and then they'll bring in a specialist, right? And we act as the specialist for the retirement plan space. We work with CPAs all the time. I educate and I answer questions for CPAs on a regular basis, because we're in this level of expertise that a lot of folks who are more of the general practitioner part of it, they don't dive that deep into the IRS code in that area. And having a general practitioner like a financial planner will help you prioritize. Do you need insurance first? Do you need to pay off debt first? Do you need to save for retirement? Which one comes first? And that type of individual will help with that. If you feel like you're pretty educated and kind of a DIY type person, then maybe you don't. If you're young and the goal is to stockpile and let it grow as much as possible, things are a little bit more simple, right? It's get the account set up and save, pay off debt, just save. As you get older, the more need for a financial planner, like my previous, career, you'll need that more, just so you can kind of know which direction are you in the right, more like a checkup, making sure you're doing things right. And there's different kind of financial planners out there too. So if you ever need one, just reach out. I'd be happy to introduce you to multiple ones. And I think it's a good idea. Is it necessary to open a 401k plan to have one? No. You can DIY it across the board if you wanted to, but if you need help, that's, there's always a step.
And I guess the best way to do that, if they want to DIY it, just get on Google and start searching and figuring out the best way to do it. And it can't be that difficult, I'm sure, to be able to do it, to open it up.
It can be. It depends on, there's a lot of, in the 401k world, there's a lot more compliance if you're a business in a 401k. There's a lot more compliance, meaning there's extra tax filings that you may or may not have to file. It's called a 5500. It's the step one, ask questions, reach out, educate yourself, find someone to talk to. And that's the first step, is picking up the phone.
Do you recommend, I do, and I think it makes sense to me, but for people to first get out of debt before they, isn't that the biggest key to being financially independent and success down the road and being able to retire?
Yeah, 100%. That debt is a killer. Especially it's high interest debt, right? it's credit cards. I'm not one for paying off mortgages first, just because usually, okay, we're in a high interest rate environment right now, not historically speaking, but we're higher than we were last year for sure. And it's still considered low. And if you can earn more than that, if you can earn more comfortably, I'm not saying buying hedge funds and, earning 600% in cryptocurrency or something like that, but a balanced portfolio it can beat what you're paying in interest. That's arbitrage. You're beating. So if you have a 5% mortgage and you're earning 10, you're netting 5 on that specific dollar amount. It's a little bit more complicated than that,
right.
But that's basic finance 101. And so, but getting out of debt is absolutely first priority. Creating a buffer, a emergency fund is very important. Being a business owner, independent contractor, you're a little bit more in control of your money and the income. And I'm a big fan of having multiple sources of income too, right? To me, that is more important than diversification in your investments. So because during the pandemic, for example, a lot of people's income just stopped, right? And being able to say, okay, I still got this much coming in, earmarking your money and having to say, okay, this amount of money is going towards my bills. This part is for this and this part is for that. And having that, being able to pivot if you need to in an emergency is really important. The emergency fund helps with that.
So you mentioned other sources of income. So let's say, there's some people out there that they don't want to mess with the investing. Just,
sure.
I'm scared of it. I just don't know enough about it. I don't want to do it. What are some of the other sources of income that you think would be, be good to get into?
Yeah, good question. And as far as, let's say someone's nervous about the stock market, these are tax plays, right? When you're putting money into the retirement, it's a tax play. You can be as conservative or aggressive as you want inside of these things. But real estate is huge, in my opinion. I think real estate is so important because, one, it creates an income source. You're buying an asset. And two, if you have renters, you have somebody else paying for your retirement. They're saving for your retirement, right? And you're building an asset. You can lend against it if you need to. There's a big community out there. It's called Bigger Pockets. The Bigger Pockets community. It's all about real estate investing and how to start with nothing, or how do you buy 50 doors over the course of 5 years. It's all real estate investing, and I love it. And I work with a lot of real estate investors too. And it's a great place to start and get started on that. But that's just one form. And being able to make sure that, like I said, having 2-3 sources, if you're married, that counts as another one. Just being able to, because diversifying and be able to pivot is really important. And real estate is just one. Having a second business, a side business, or who else are you talking to? What else can you do for the people you speak to? Things like that, and that all helps.
Yeah, I like that too, because investing is here's the way I weigh this out, and I know nobody really asked me for my opinion, but so investing is no maintenance. It's all patience. It's
Absolutely.
No maintenance. There's nobody's calling me with problems with anything. It's just being patient and how long do you have, type deal. To me, that's important to me is the time. I can invest money and I can just watch it. And as long as I got patience, I know it's going to go up and down, but you don't watch it every day type of deal. And then the other side of me, I like getting a check on a regular basis. So, I'm not getting a check from the investments, not in the mail or not in my direct deposit. You know what I'm saying? It's making money, and you can look on your financial investments and see that it's making money or losing money. But the other side of me is like a rental, like you're talking about, or something to that, trying to think about what can I do there to get a steady income coming in, but the least amount of, I don't need to be working another 40 hours, trying to maintain that. So I think to me, that's the hardest part of weighing those two options right there. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to say the godfather of this, but the book Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great book that explains buying assets.
What's the name
and
of
buying income. Good. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of it. It's been around for decades. Yeah. And it just explains the importance of buying income producing assets. And that's a really good book to get into.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out.
LubeZone has opened a new location in Statesville, North Carolina. It's located north of Statesville on Highway 77, just west of Exit 59. LubeZone services both single trucks and truck fleets, so whether you're driving through or you have a trucking company nearby, LubeZone are the experts to turn to. LubeZone's specialty is full-service oil changes that take approximately 30 to 40 minutes. They also offer tractor-trailer grease, gearbox service, generator service, reefer service, and DOT inspections. They also go the extra mile when it comes to quality control. What does that mean? That means your semi-truck is checked not just once, but twice to ensure all service and parts are good to go. LubeZone does this so you can rest easy knowing that your truck is in top condition. No other service center knows semi-trucks better than LubeZone. Check out lubezone.com for all their locations, and when you go in there, tell them you heard it on the Oakley Podcast.
Now, also, a couple more things, and then I'll let you go. One, you're also kind of change it a little bit. You're also in the life insurance business you mentioned. What kind of life insurance would you recommend for these independent contractors?
Yeah. And a lot of this, it ties in with the 401k business because we educate the participants on some personal finance and we educate the business owners on what they need. And sometimes life insurance comes into that. And there's types of retirement plans that involve life insurance, like something called deferred comp, which is something we haven't even talked about yet. But for the individual, term insurance is 9 times out of 10, term insurance is the way to go. Probably more than 9 times out of 10, probably 19 out of 20, I'd say. And term insurance, and the reason is as you're building your wealth through or achieving financial independence, right? As you're growing your wealth to achieve financial independence, once you achieve financial independence, you don't need life insurance because you are technically self-insured, right? You don't need that. You have enough assets. And, it's not that 4% rule. You need to be above and beyond that because if something happens, then you need to be able to dig into your own assets. So term life insurance is basically like leasing a car. I know, a lot of people don't like leasing cars, but at the same time, you're renting somebody else's deeper pockets until you fill your own, is what term life insurance is. And the actual chance, I think they pay out maybe 8% of term policies actually pay out to the beneficiaries. And they're much, much cheaper than buying a cash value life insurance policy. And, to compare that, it'd be like buying an asset. So if someone's really into investing in real estate, they might understand the fact that if you're buying a permanent policy, you're building a cash value, which is kind of like equity. However, its pricing is a little bit different. So in a term policy, the cost of the insurance is if you pass away or if you die. And a permanent policy is when you die. So we all pass away, not to turn this into a morbid conversation, but they know you're going to, and they're going to price it as such. Versus the term is, we only have to pay out this 8% of the time, so we're going to make it a dime a dozen. So obviously, the younger you are, the better it is to buy these things. It's based on age and multiple other health concerns. Industry is also another thing that they look at in underwriting, and there's different kinds of underwriting. But term insurance is, again, like, use it because most people need a lot. $1 million is not difficult to have an argument that, you need $1 million. That'll go quick, especially if you have a young family, and they rely on your income and so on and so forth. So you need to have, could be several $1 million of life insurance, and it's way cheaper to go with term, and you're able to stockpile the rest of your assets into a retirement plan or something else to get to that financial independence level.
So term life insurance is a way to go unless you are financially independent. So if you pass away today, do you have enough assets to take care of your spouse to where they can live comfortably on just like they are now and not have to worry about it? Because if you've got a mortgage, if you got any kind of debt, you better have term life insurance. Because if you pass away, and I've seen this, not to get on the morbid conversation, but I've seen this with truck drivers, and they pass away unexpectedly, and their spouse is in dire straits of what to do, trying to sell the truck, and don't know how to pay for it, and what are we going to do? And if they had that term life insurance set in place, because it's not as expensive as you would think it would be, then that would it wouldn't take care of the agony and the pain, but man, it would sure make things a whole lot better when you got that.
Takes away the financial stress.
Yeah,
it takes away the financial stress.
That's worth a lot. And
it's based on, is someone relying on you? Yes or no? Yes, then you probably need insurance if you don't have the assets.
Yep.
So it's more of the question you need to ask yourself is, if I am no longer around, what would my family need to do? Do they need to move? Do they need to get a second job? Do they need to do this, do that, pay off debt? How do they get to that point? And then you can kind of back into that number that'll get them to that point.
Well, I want all our owner-operators to be financially independent. I think it's less stress. You can sure got better control of things when you don't have any debt, and whether it's a business or yourself. And that's something I think all of our guys strive for to do, become financially independent and enjoy retirement. Whether that is working some, the way you want to work, that's great, but you got the funds to be able to do that and live comfortably. So it's really nice to have. Matt, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm a big fan of, on the retirement side of things, I'm a fan of not retiring cold turkey, like inching into it. So because there's so many stresses that come in when you just cut that income source and move over to your assets. It's just a little bit, even if it's just, $1,000 a month, every little thing is, you don't have to worry about if the market drops and that the year, it's a sequence of returns, as they call it, is what is the market doing the years you first retire. You don't have to worry about that. And, I call it the honeymoon stage when you retire. Yeah, you're going to spend more. You retire initially because you're going out and vacationing and spending money on dinner and lunches and all sorts of stuff.
Living the retired life.
It does cost. Yeah, you're on vacation now, so it's fun. But yeah, I'm a big fan of not retiring cold turkey, as I like to call it.
That's a good point, because I see a lot of guys, they try to do that. In 6 months, they're back to work up here wanting to.
Yeah, I know people who spend all their money.
Can't stand it. Yeah.
Like a year.
Yeah, well, I tell you, man, I really appreciate your input and coming on here and trying to help our independent contractors and give them an idea of what they need to do and give them something to think about too, of where they need to start. And it's a whole lot easier to start when you're young than it is trying to play catch up. But there is, you can do it. You can do it. You can absolutely do it, no matter what age you are or what financial position you're in. You can get it done for sure. Matt, give us, if you don't care, people might want to get a hold of you or ask you some questions or anything like that. Do you mind giving out some information, or whether it's a email or phone number or something?
Yep. Yeah, I'll just give the website. It's I have two websites. So for the 401k retirement plan stuff, it's 401k.expert. We have that forwarded on straight to our website, 401k.expert. And then that'll get a hold of us. But if you want just information on life insurance only, just the term part of it, then Surely.co. It's SURE, like sure, and then LI, like life insurance. So Surely.co. .co.
Thank you much. All right. Well, and if I get any questions, I will forward them to you. It's something that if our listeners want to get in touch with you. So
please.
Thank you much. I appreciate you joining us here on the Oakley Podcast. Very beneficial, very good information, and I can't thank you enough. It was really good to meet you too.
Likewise. Thanks, Jeremy.
You bet. Hey, guys, thanks for listening to the Oakley Podcast once again. This week, we appreciate you joining in, and I hope this helps you in being a successful independent contractor. And if you got questions, shoot them to me. I'll be glad to give them to Matt, or check out his website and let him know what's going on. And once again, we appreciate you. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.